Let's get started, I guess. We'll do just a quick intro and we'll get into it and we can, I want to hear some stories about the past year of multi-chain ChaosNet operation because I think that'll be a good time. So, if anyone wants to come up and share some stories about that, let's do that. But let's just do a quick intro first. Uh, I'm Familiar Cow with Nine Realms.
I'm Chad THOReau, THORChain community member and THORswap content creator.
And I'm Chad Barraford. I'm one of the core devs on the THORChain core protocol.
Yes, so Chad, first off, last week, Bitcoin Miami conference, how did your panel go? That video was quite something.
Yeah, I think overall it was kind of fun. I mean, it was a bit weird because for whatever reason, the person that organized the Bitcoin conference at Bitcoin Magazine, he just wanted to throw me into the sidechains panel, and I wasn't going to argue with him on this or I was just thankful he's giving me a spot anywhere, right? Because they don't typically allow somebody like myself who, build another coin to be a part of that. But we're unique in the sense that because we interact with layer one Bitcoin, it's a bit different than everything else in the space. And so it's maybe a bit more appropriate for us than it is for any random project out there. I would have preferred to be a part of, to some degree, to be a part of the Bitcoin DEX conversation that took place, which I was in the audience for that one. I caught at least half of that, fortunately.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that there was a DEX conversation because that seems extremely relevant compared to a sidechain conversation.
Yeah. And after I watched it, I kind of was happy that I was not a part of it to some degree, just because the moderator of the conversation, this woman B++, she's just this very, she made it very clear in the talk, and you can find it online if you go onto YouTube, the whole thing. But she made it very clear that she was just a hardcore Bitcoiner, really hard maxing, I think actually Mo Garkey, if he's in the audience, I don't think he's in the audience, but Mo Garkey went up to her after the chat and he was just oh, hey, why didn't you have THORChain on here? Or some question about THORChain. And she just kind of swung her hand, her backhand, across his, not hit him, but just kind of shoot him away. We're only Bitcoiners here, or some really kind of dismissive and rude kind of response. And so I can't imagine what would have happened if I was actually on stage and a moderator was just jumping down my throat in some sense or whatever. But I found it to be a little bit comedic because the people that were on the stage were the guy Mike, I think it's Mike Brock or Mike Block or whatever his name was from I think it's Square or Twitter that did the DID stuff of matching crypto Bitcoin buyers versus Bitcoin sellers and then using a centralized mechanism to actually do the trade. And then there was what's the name of the other one? I can't remember the name of it. God damn. I wish I remember the name. Where you can buy Bitcoin with dollars, but it's somewhat decentralized, but you can get rug pulled. Fuck. What's it called? God damn it. I can't remember. Anyways, the people they had on stage was not really quite, none of them were DEXs at all. And so it was a little bit comedic that we had a Bitcoin talk about Bitcoin DEXs and none of them on stage were actually DEXs. And the one thing that is a DEX that trades like Bitcoin, the dude was sitting in the audience. That just seemed funny to me.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. So if there's a DEX panel, but no other tokens are allowed, what do you trade your Bitcoin with? You just trade one Bitcoin for another Bitcoin in a decentralized way? Or?
No, the only thing they can do is trade with fiat, I guess, which doesn't break the Bitcoin maxi paradigm, which is a little bit funny because they allow trades with dollar fiat, but not USDC or T or UST or anything else. But it didn't make any sense to me. I was just watching out of amusement more than anything else.
Just yesterday, I was watching Michael Saylor's interview with Lex Friedman on Lex's podcast, and he's talking about the different layers of Bitcoin. Layer one just being the core chain, layer two being things like the Lightning Network, anything that uses Bitcoin as the gas asset. And then he went on to go layer threes, which are basically just the exchanges where you can move things instantly for free. I was thinking like, THORChain is awful lot like a layer. It's between layer 1.5 and 2.5, but it's not 2. It's very, very interesting in that way because we have, our own like synthetic Bitcoin that you can move around like insanely cheap, insanely fast, and fully redeemable for a real Bitcoin, or you could just trade real Bitcoins on THORChain. So it's kind of interesting that we just really don't fit in any of the paradigms that kind of go along with the industry, which is a lot of the unique value proposition of THORChain, in that it's so different than any other major project, because it's not a regular layer one. It's not just an improvement on Bitcoin. It's an improvement on the space as a whole. We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I thought it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it is a layer one because it's got a layer one thing. And if you like just kind of turn the cube a little bit and look at it from a different angle, it's not a layer one. It's kind of a side chain, but not a side chain. And it's kind of like a layer two, but not quite a layer two either. It is this weird kind of thing where it just kind of fits in many different boxes, but none of the boxes simultaneously.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the funny things about that segment that got posted everywhere. It's just like the obsession over the semantics of a side chain, and like how you're saying, like, why were you even on this particular panel? And just such an just too much attention focused on like definitions and fitting things into boxes, and kind of like ignoring this like first principles ground up like next step thinking and redesigning something. That just kind of gets ignored because it's like, oh, that doesn't fit into my boxes that I have already. Like, what is that? I don't understand. It can't be real. And it seems like a lot of this misunderstanding kind of stems from that. It's like, this doesn't fit this old paradigm, therefore I don't understand it, therefore I don't care. And unfortunately, in that, a lot of people seem to be missing like the elephant in the room that is THORChain, and just the irony of a DEX panel not talking about it. It's like you were saying, Cal, it's like what is a Bitcoin only DEX? Like I guess fiat, but that doesn't really help this whole problem of detaching from that.
Yeah, and the irony of that is that Bitcoin used to be that, like, where Bitcoin didn't fit into those boxes and people dismissed it. But like, Bitcoiners saw that value anyway, and they believed in it and they bought it, and, and now they're doing well with it, And so it's kind of ironic, like you were just in this place yourself, years ago when Bitcoin was relatively new, and you're still trying to, it didn't fit any boxes. You're trying to argue for its use case and why it's valuable, why it's different, and why we should pay attention to it and these things. And now, we as a project and as a community, we're kind of in a similar boat of like, we're fitting into a new space that doesn't really quite fit the old boxes, but it provides significant value and rethinks the entire industry in many respects. And we're trying to get people to kind of rethink themselves. And they're struggling to do it, even though they just did it a few years ago, which is a bit funny, right? One thing I wish I had said in that sidechain thing, I just didn't occur to me until later, was that like you could maybe an argument for why THORChain is a sidechain is that like that you can interact with it and do things with it without using another or ultimate coin, right? You can swap, you can add liquidity, you can withdraw liquidity. Eventually, you'll take out loans and like get like savings and interest accounts on your Bitcoin. And so you can do all of those things without ever touching any other asset other than Bitcoin or paying gas on another asset or any of these things. So maybe that is another way of thinking about what a sidechain is. And so like you don't need to acquire another chain or another asset or another wallet even to interact with these services, which is part of the Bitcoin framework to some, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chad. And just jumped up here for a second. I think you were trying to think of BISC as far as
yes, BISC. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, BISC is cool. There's definitely a need for that in the space. Like for people that don't have bank accounts or don't want to use bank accounts, that's a cool product. But it was pretty amazing to me to see like the promotion of literally the U.S. Postal Office website as an exchange, but then saying that THORChain isn't sufficiently decentralized, or that's not Bitcoin only, so we can't use that. It's like, okay, so you guys can use the government hosted on a centralized server, but you can't use 100 anonymous decentralized nodes because, I don't know. It's just pretty amazing.
Back up. How is the U.S. Postal Service a DEX again?
So you can mail people a postal money order, and then they will send you Bitcoin through BISC. So that's their version of a DEX.
Yeah, but then like it's so easy to get, because everything happens outside of a blockchain. There's like no way to actually ensure that anything ever actually really happens, right? Like,
well, didn't you hear that the post office has a great website where you can check the status of the money orders?
Okay, all right. I guess that's true, but like I can go ahead and
a tracking number.
That helps, I guess. I mean, I can just sell Mogarky, a money order, and hopefully he sends me the Bitcoin. And I think he said on stage that like they have a mechanism if that happens, and I can make a claim, and then somebody else pays for it, or I don't know. Like I didn't quite wrap my head around it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I just
if it's anything like regular USPS parcel delivery, that shit's getting there like 3 weeks later with no box, like crushed in on the side. If the mailman even decides to bring it to you.
I also thought it's a little bit naive to think like we're going to escape the world of KYC and identity tracking by using the government's website. Like, okay, if that's what you think.
As long as there's not another coin involved, that's all that really matters.
Let's get our priorities straight first, gentlemen. So, Mogarky, what happened again with that lady, that D++ lady that like shooed you away when you asked her a question?
Oh, yeah. So after the quote unquote DEX panel, I was just like, this is pretty weird. I didn't even know you were in the room, but I just walked up to her and I said, oh, I was pretty surprised. I was friendly. I was pretty surprised to hear no mention of THORChain on a supposed DEX panel. And she just gave me a rude hand wave, like, get out of my face, and just walked away. Like, and she just said, we're Bitcoin only. Okay. So what is a DEX? What is a DEX when you have one chain? I don't even understand that.
It's a buzzword.
Yeah, well, it's not a DEX, obviously. I mean, what that guy Mike Block, I think, or Brick, or whatever that guy's name was talking about, like, that's not a DEX, dude. Decentralized identity is barely even decentralized, and I don't really honestly get the point all that much. I guess it's better than nothing, I suppose, but it's like in the end, it's still not a DEX, and it's everything. In the end, everything's still centralized, and in the end, everything's still like has a significant layer of trust that you just have to ensure you don't get fucked. Like, I don't know, man. It's just a little bit disappointing that we've had this thing out for a year, trading billions of dollars of Bitcoin, real Bitcoin transactions, everything verifiably true, and not so much like bullshit trade volume that you see on centralized exchanges sometimes, but like real trade volume. And yet people are still kind of dismissing the project to some degree. It's a little bit like, you guys are so annoying.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it on Twitter the other day, but I thought it was amazing. Like, eventually you're going to get the brown pill, the rune pill, and it's going to have to be shoved up your ass.
That was Smith.
Yeah, that's Smith. I missed that, but that's great.
That's hilarious.
So, Mogarky and Chad, while you guys are up here, I want to hear a little bit about, I don't know if you remember your guys' thoughts a year ago after launching CastNet, but, what were things looking like from your guys' end about, just like the general state of things? This is like as things were really launching, this is like the first liquidity being added to CastNet. I'm sure there was a bunch of small little problems in the back. So, yeah. What were you guys' thoughts about a year ago, right after the launch? Did you think we'd be here today with over $1 billion in TVL?
I mean, for me, I had no context of like what the TVL would be or trade volume would be. And I knew it wasn't going to be a whole lot just because of we're purposely capping the amount of liquidity on the network for some period of time. I probably would have guessed it would have been maybe 6 months or so of that, and it ended up being closer to a year, which is fine. That just happens as part of building software. But I remember us having, like, within the teams, having some debates or like last minute debates or arguments about small things like, oh, how much liquidity should we start the network with? Should it be $1 million or should $3 million? And people were kind of pushing back and forth in these concepts. I remember for me, it was like super stressful just because my wife was about to give birth at like any day then. And so it was just like, I didn't know if like we were going to launch the network the same day. We were going to, launch a new life, And so she ended up being born like a week or two after the network was born. So her first birthday is coming up. But just all of that together with a pregnant wife and a new baby and trying to prepare for that. And then on top of that, you have this whole like new chain being launched was just like, that was a lot. That was a lot to take on for sure.
You had 2 new babies at once, basically.
Yeah, 2 at a time. I wouldn't recommend it. If you can launch a multi-billion-dollar network and have a baby at separate times, it's probably a better idea for anybody who's thinking about doing that. I would say just do it separately. It's a lot less stressful that way. Because most of the time, like that, this is the kind of funny thing is like most of the time when people give birth, you have like a maternity leave or paternity leave, right? And that's depending what country you're from, it can be 3 months or 6 months, whatever. But in my case, like I had no sense of paternity leave just because. For very little at least, just because I was in the beginning of this network being launched. And in the beginning, there were like a lot of bugs and issues and things to be worked out, just things that we couldn't have ironed out in testnet. We had to launch a real. In fact, we saw some bugs that didn't exist in testnet that should have existed in testnet, but weren't there. And we had to find them in mainnet, so to speak. And so like the first, month or 2 or 3 was really just kind of like putting out fires. Okay, we need to delay the churn, fix this gas related bug on this chain, or the Binance Bitcoin Cash bug with this thing or whatever. And just like a bunch of these issues, just kind of edge case issues that just kind of all exploded out pretty early on. But then with every bug we fixed, it just felt like we were getting less and less frequent and more edge case. And it continues to be true today for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy for me to even think about a year ago. It's like I was barely involved in the space, like I was a huge fan of THORChain, but I was definitely on the outside. I hadn't like joined the dev Discord. I don't think the dev Discord existed actually. It was just a Telegram at that point in time. But I had a bunch of BEP2 Rune and I was just really excited to be able to upgrade it to native. Like I remember that being like the biggest thing of launch day is like, we can finally get real Rune. Let's do this. So then like the Asgard X wallet came out and me and my brother were like racing to install it the fastest and get our Rune upgraded and be like, oh yeah, we have no more of that shit Rune. We got the real stuff now. So that's my first memory of like launching ChaosNet and then trying to get all my friends to buy Rune, telling them like, this is going to be the best investment you ever make. But I was like, hang on, let's make sure that the wallet works first. Let's give it a couple days. And then I was getting people set up, with their hardware wallets. I think at the time it was only KeepKey. So I was like, all right, just put some Bitcoin in your KeepKey and then I'll help you use THORSwap or Asgard and we'll swap it over to native Rune. But yeah, I definitely wasn't involved in this project in any professional manner whatsoever. Just a fan of it and was really stoked to upgrade my native Rune and kind of watch things unfold. Put in my first LP position, but I was super nervous. So I was like, I'm only going to put in like 5 ETH, And I think my 5 ETH that I ASIN put in is almost breaking even again now.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I also wasn't involved at that time, just as a user, but yeah, I definitely remember it being an exciting time just to be able to do like the first cross-chain swaps and stuff like that. Like just doing, I don't remember what my first swap was. I should go try to see if I can dig that up. But I remember it being pretty mind blowing. And then, yeah, I think ETH Rune was also my first LP at that time. But yeah, it was just, yeah, for me, I was just like a user, an outsider at the time. And I was just watching and I was just amazed by this thing that I was hearing about that was coming. I wasn't a user of BEPSwap and I wasn't that earlier. I was aware of it before MCCN, but I wasn't an active user at that time. I was just holding some BEP2 Rune. But once ChaosNet came out and THORSwap was ready to go and stuff, then it was pretty exciting to get to do those things for the first time. And just watching the whole year since then unfold and just how much more comfortable even I've personally got using it and just, getting to a point where I started telling all my friends, getting all of them on, then Twitter, getting everyone on. And now, kind of trying to onboard as many people as humanly possible. So it's been a fun time and it's just cool to see like how much more seamless it's gotten.
I remember I first saw a tweet in the early days of like, Kevin Rose, he's got like 1 million followers on Twitter. And it seems like a really great. I've never met him personally. I've spoken to him on some Twitter DMs and that kind of stuff. But like, seems like a really great guy. And I've been a fan of his since like way before I even got into startups. Like actually in the early days, like I was following his podcast and stuff like that back in like 2010 and this kind of time frame. And I remember him tweeting out and like saying, like kind of with a little video, kind of like showing him doing like a Bitcoin to ETH swap or something like this. And he's like, yep, I can confirm this actually works. It's real. It's legitimate. This is incredible. Like that was a pretty cool moment for me, just because I've always been a big fan of Kevin Rose, like for a very long period of time. I just like his content. And to see somebody that I've kind of admired for such a long period of time to be tweeting about something that I've helped, played a role in putting together and exist in the world, which for me felt like a pretty rewarding thing in that moment.
Awesome. I'd love to get some other people up here to talk about, some of their experiences and stories, or just their thoughts and whatnot. But we could talk a little bit about just what's been going on THORChain development for a minute, if people want to request in the meantime. So, Chad, what's been going on in the realm of THORChain development? Like after the Luna launch, it's kind of been backseat to, bug fixes and, fixing all these edge cases here and there. Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we've seen a couple of bugs in the last couple of weeks. Like we had to kind of iron out those things. Always just kind of distract and delay, other things that are more fun and interesting. So that's just the way of the world in a sense. The thing that we're mostly focused on right now is getting kind of launched in the community is Thor names. And so right now it's just going through the process of some internal testing. I think it's actually available on StageNet already. So if you want to test out Thor names on StageNet, go hog wild and try some things out, try to break it, try to see how you can manipulate it or whatever. If you find anything, let us know. We'll pay you some roonies, depending on the significance of your find. So it's in the core protocol. If it's UI based around like THORswap, whatever, then that's a different thing. But yeah, that's what we're mostly focused on right now as a primary focus. There's a bunch of bug fixes happening as well, but also the PR for derived assets was opened recently. And so derived assets is basically another way of saying Thor USD and Thor BDC, Thor F, Thor Luna, Thor Doge, whatever. That PR has been recently opened up and ready for review, and will probably be merged into stage in hopefully the next week or two, maybe 3, depending on how smooth things go. So that's the next thing is that. IBC is something we were still interested in doing. We ran into some problems with though, because we realized that if we were to enable IBC today, it would create a security risk in the sense that we have delayed outbound transactions to give the community time to respond to an active exploit or an active attack on the network. And by having IBC on the network allows somebody to swap directly to Rune without having any delays to that, and then being able to send that Rune over the IBC to, Osmosis or whatever, and then swap that to Osmo or swap it to, F using their bridge or whatever. And so it gives you like a quick and easy exit, kind of bypassing that security feature we added post exploit in the summer. So we have to figure out a way to have that. And to be fair, it's not IBC is not the problem. Like IBC, it's not a security risk with IBC itself. It's more of the security demands and requirements that we have to ensure the safety of the assets and the funds for everybody, who's involved, who's LPing. We want to uphold a certain standard that we need to get IBC to adhere to that standard. So we need to figure out a way to do this that makes sense, and that'll take more engineering work to do so. But that's still something we're interested in doing and planning on doing at some point. And then after that, lending, DEX aggregation. Oh, that's right. DEX aggregation is also being worked on. Heimdall's now taking that work over. We can take that across the finish line, which is really great. Hopefully that'll be out in the next few weeks. Then lending, for savings, all that will come with it. I'm hoping to get all those THORFi stuff done on StageNet and running and available for everybody to test within a month. That'd be great if I can get that done. That's my intention. We'll see if that moves as quickly and as smoothly as I would like it to move, but you never know in this world, I guess. But I want to get that stuff out the door and ready for people to start, hack it on, testing, throw it through some weird, wacky scenarios, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, we also have some more kind of economic modeling that we're doing internally using a system called CanCan that Orion's in the office now. He's working on that now to kind of create some ways of economically simulating various cases and scenarios of what happens if, the collateral is really high or the collateral is really low, or the room price goes up or the room price goes down, or what happens when this happens or that happens. You can create all sorts of different kind of hypothetical scenarios and then run through some bunch of simulations to see how the economic design kind of holds up. So we're going to spend some time kind of like creating some of those simulators so that we can kind of really test out the economics and make sure there's no vectors that we haven't already considered.
Awesome. And all that obviously goes hand in hand with the focus on security and stability is the number one priority for the core team and the Nine Realms. Everyone that's working on the core development of the protocol is number one focus, security and stability. So it's great that we're getting all these new features out there sooner rather than later. But the number one thing is doing it in the safest way, which protects user funds, protects the network funds, and gets us to where we need to be. But not any sooner than the soonest possible time frame. So thanks team for sticking with us on that. See that there's some requests for some other people that want to come up. If anyone wants to come up and share some stories, or Orion want to come up and talk about the economic modeling, we can do that. I would like to hear some stories about people's experiences with THORChain over the past year, because I think this is kind of a time right after the 1 year anniversary, we can kind of look back a little bit and reflect, because we do a lot of forward thinking here. We're always talking about what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Everything's always 2 weeks to a month out. So I really like to hear some thoughts on just people's reflections over the past year, because I think a lot of people have spent a lot of time in the whole THORChain space, and it really resonates with a lot of people. So I'd love to hear some people's experiences. I'll let people up on stage right now. What's up, The Alchemist?
It's Orion here. Yeah, I just wanted to share my my experience when multi-chain launched. I had took the day off work and alarm clocked it so I could try to get some liquidity in. Missed the caps filled so fast I ended up missing being able to add anything. But yeah, it was just a really, really amazing experience and moment to like get in and like start to get involved in the community. And it's crazy to think back over the past year. I kind of think back and I have a bit of vertigo, kind of imagining all of the scenarios and things that we've gone through over the past year as a community. So yeah, it's been an awesome ride and looking forward to the future. Yeah,
Ryan, what is this software that Chad was talking about with economic modeling for THORFi? I'm kind of interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, sure. So some context here. THORFi is a complex beast and has a lot of moving parts in the issue. There's just a lot to digest, and I'm working quite closely on it, and I still like reread things and have to ask the team for clarification on stuff. So the idea around the economic modeling is to set up basically set up simulators so that we can, rather than it being kind of hand wavy conversations, we can really nail down a specific scenario and then see, empirically what is the outcome of that scenario. And then the whole idea with this is that, rather than it being, constrained to what we can do kind of back of the envelope, we really want to make sure that we can, calculate and understand all of the different edge cases that are possible. In this kind of token engineering space, people refer to this as like, what's the reachability, or like where are places in the network, or like situations that the network can arrive in that are dangerous. And we want to really understand, those regions of various parameters so that we can either add business logic or change incentives to avoid those. So that's kind of the rationale here, is that we just want to better understand the system and poke at it more. And then also encourage the community to participate by helping us come up with scenarios that we want to test. The software that I'm using is called CAD, and it's put out by the block science team and and then this like token engineering consortium. I can add some links to share out as well. But the cool thing is that they've set up this framework where you're able to model your protocol. And then there's a whole kind of community around, helping you, test and understand the behavior. But yeah, I think this could be a really, really valuable tool for THORChain to be able to understand THORFi better. And then also, moving into the future as other features are suggested, we would have an interface through the simulator to be able to test those, so that we can make sure that, any new feature still maintains the kind of economic guarantees that THORChain has, and that we can, really start to push the edges of what's possible. Once we have THORFi landed and it's battle tested and everything like that, there will be this kind of Cambrian explosion of different use cases that can be built on top of that. And so, having this as a kind of testing space, I think is a really important part of, kind of the continued growth of THORChain. I kind of think of it like StageNet, but for the economics of THORChain. It's not nearly as complicated as that, but that's kind of the utility that I see.
Awesome. Thanks, man. CAD's a funny name too. I gotta say, because it just sounds like just CAD twice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really sure what the rationale was there. I think it's I can't remember what the acronym is, but yeah, I'll figure that out.
The Alchemist was up here first, if you're there. All right, we'll go to Big Chief Energy.
Okay, hey guys. So I'm like brand new to this THORChain, whatever. I downloaded the mobile app for my phone. I looked a little bit into the staking mechanism, whatever, and I transferred 21 Litecoin over to THORChain. I don't know, I must have did something wrong because I staked my 21 Litecoin. It cost me a small fee or whatever. It wasn't too much, but then overnight, I was under the impression that by staking I would earn Litecoin, but for some reason my balance was being lowered, and I lost 0.4 Litecoin or something overnight.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Sorry, were you finished with the question?
Yeah, I guess I just don't know what I did wrong, or why I would receive negative interest on the stuff that I'm seeing.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is something that, on the interface level, definitely working towards making this more clear. So every THORChain pool is 50-50 exposure to the asset and Rune, Rune being the native coin of THORChain. So when you're in any of these positions, it's not just single-sided staking, it's a liquidity pool position. So you are a liquidity that enables the cross-chain swaps. So your Litecoin goes into this pool, and this pool is 50-50 Rune and Litecoin. And however you add to that pool, whether it's from one side or both sides or the Rune side, you're still having that 50-50 exposure. So what that means is just that in those, I forget what time frame you said, but in that day or 2 days or whatever, that just means that Rune either went down more than Litecoin or Litecoin went up more than Rune. And due to the rebalancing, if you're looking at that in Litecoin terms, then your overall position is worth less in Litecoin terms due to the rebalancing, but you're still earning the fees and stuff on top of that. One thing I would suggest is checking out THORyield, THORyield.com. There's a mobile app too, where you can just plug in your address into the site, and then you can get a better picture of what's really going on with your position. So
if I want to see returns, I have to and Litecoin at the same time.
Yes and no. So that is what you're doing. You're just you can do it from only one side, the way you did it. You THORChain only has your Litecoin address. You only deposited Litecoin. You're only going to withdraw Litecoin, but you're still exposed to that 50-50 pool no matter how you added. So in the future, those things we're talking about with THORFi, in the future there's going to be single-sided things, but the current main liquidity pools, what you're looking at right now, are 50% exposed to Rune.
Yeah, so part of the reason why you can experience an immediate loss is because you supplied just one asset, and so then you basically made the pool unbalanced by providing just Litecoin but no Rune. So then arbitrage bots have to come in and provide the Rune side because you didn't, which is fine. And so basically mathematically what happens is like you add just Litecoin, the network more or less swaps to Rune, and you pay for that kind of swap fee, so to speak. And so you have an immediate loss from like, moment one, for like, T1, as they sometimes call it. But if you just stay in the pool, just like, sitting there for like 100 days plus, like I wouldn't worry about it in the long term, but it is a little bit like confusing. I totally understand why, especially somebody new coming into the space is just a little bit, dumbfounded or confused by the way things are like looking. But as THOReau just said, like there are some single-sided asset things, so you could provide just Litecoin and have only access to Litecoin, or only exposure to Litecoin and get more Litecoin on your Litecoin. All that stuff is planned as part of THORify. But right now we have these liquidity pools that are providing pretty much the entire yield to the network.
I pinned a tweet up on top, Big Cheap Energy, for THORChain LP University. It's a community server that has all the best info on liquidity pools, and so you can learn about impermanent loss and LPing. So if you have any more questions, definitely go into LP University and ask them. They have 24/7 one-on-one support. So thanks for your question, man.
All right, thanks, I appreciate it.
But moving forward, just for now, if we can keep the conversation focused on the question that Kyle had about people's experiences with the network, just to have a more precise or more of a flow to the conversation. And if you have questions about what you were asking before, or but whatever, just kind of hold it towards the end of the kind of spaces, and then we can kind of box things so that the conversation is a little more structured.
Sweet, Alchemist, you there, man?
Oh, hi. Yeah, got hijacked by Orion there for a little bit. I was just going to go down memory lane. I got into THORChain, I think, middle of 2019. There was a guy on Twitter called Neil Patel or Nick Patel. I forgot the name, but he did these code reviews and he wrote these long reports. And he had done a report on THORChain, and basically he had a whole bunch of mathematical equations in the review. And at the end, he just summarized it as, if they pull this off, this is going to be game changing. And then, I just went around and bought a bag, and that was a single, hands down, the biggest decision I've ever made in my life, I think. And then I got into the Telegram, because we only had Telegram at that time. And you had all these anons, Alina, and there was another guy called Kai. I think it was Kai Ansari. I think he was an Australian. And there was all these discussions about continuous liquidity pools and symmetric and asymmetric, and everything all bounces over my head. But as I watched, and I think we saw all these incredible anons pop up. I think Grassroots Crypto was one of them. Then Coleslaw and a bunch of other people. Mehouse was the first real cheerleader, I think, or the stats guy and the marketing guy. And then there was the Rune Ranger. And, it was basically trying to wrap my head around these concepts and trying to understand them better, and wondering whether they will pull this off or not. And then to see BepSwap come to life and to see it actually working and say, okay, this is not just some weird mathematical equations on paper. This is actually, they're trying to pull this vision off. And then we had the whole Rune Ranger calling for $6. I don't know if he did a $1 rune, but we did. It was incredible watching us hit $1 and then actually go and hit the meme target of $6. So that was incredible. Then watching MCCN, the first Bitcoin swap happen, celebrating that, and watching that progress. I think BepSwap had an incredible run, and then trying to LP there. I think I LP'd there. Had a good experience watching MCCN happen, and then riding it all the way to $20 with the THORswap IDO, and just on the cusp of that, thinking, right, now we're going to really take off. And I remember that night, then I think we just got access to the dev Discord, and then I never actually lurked in the dev Discord. Spent most of my time in Telegram, but that night I was lurking in the dev Discord, and that was the night that the hacks were happening, and I was watching them real time. And I remember thinking, this bitch watching Netflix, but I didn't think that they would actually happen. I thought, they would be stopped. And it was late at night, and I went to bed thinking next morning there'll be some there'll be some interesting things happening. But I woke up to the hacks happened. But to me, it has been an incredible journey. This was like because I think the journey of THORChain is watching incredible anonymous people stepping up to the plate every time to bat for the vision and to stick to the vision. And that's why it's such an incredible community to be part of. So I think right now where we are with $1 billion plus TVL, and it's crazy to think that even before MCCN launched, I think that we didn't have Twitter Spaces. Twitter didn't have Spaces, and but I think that's the most incredible thing. To draw a comparison, I think to have been part of this journey is similar to, to be a fly on the wall in that garage with Sergey and Larry Brin, cooking up Google. It's similar to that. I can't think of any other analogy. And even after the hacks happened, I was pretty confident that, there are so many incredible people who are contributing their time and their intelligence, their energy to accomplish this vision. So, and again, I was proven right. And to just watch THORsec come out, 9 Realms come out, and everybody just battling down the hatches. And now I feel like, we have such a strong foundation now, and we can only, the runway is clear. We're going to take off. I also, if you remember, just a month and a half back, we were stuck in, I don't know, for 300 million TVL and wondering whether we need to put a new sticker on the tin. And I was kind of arguing against that and saying, no, we need to, it is THORChain all the way. So yeah, I think with THORFi coming, with THOReau already in there, it's a lot of wonderful things to look forward to. And it's hats off to, Chad B and all the core devs for an incredible job done. It's a great day to celebrate. That's all I have to say.
Father, one thing you said there that you said before that you had read this article that said that if they can pull it off, it'll be huge. I remember seeing articles like that, people saying those kinds of statements. And for me, being kind of more on the inside than you kind of looking in from the outside, like I have a very different perspective. And so when I read those articles or saw those comments or those things, and I would just be like, well, I already know we can pull it off. I already know we can do all these things we say we're doing. Like, to me, it was no question whether or not we would achieve what we said we were going to achieve. And so when I read those things, I'd be like, well, obviously this thing's going to be like mega huge then.
I was also, I think, I remember I was there when the 500 million were burnt. And around that time, there were a lot of hacks left, right, and center all around us. And everybody was pointing the fingers at THORChain. And if I had to pat myself on the back, it was just that because I was hanging out in the Telegram all the time and seeing the work being done, I had the confidence to just hold on. Yeah, but we've come through a lot. We that first initial year, because there were so many rug pulls in DeFi, left, right, and center all around us. But we held through.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you, Alchemist, for sharing that.
Cheers.
Schwarzy. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Hey, no, it's Katze. It's die schwarze Katze. It's fine. You can just call me Kat. Everyone does.
Okay, I'll say that next time.
Okay.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. The Alchemist, this is annoying. You're literally like a soul sister, a soul brother, because you've been talking about everything I wanted to say. So I really don't know where to start. But by the way, Orion, that's it's computer-aided design, and it's complex and adaptive and dynamic. So CAD and CAD. I know it's funny, but it's existential to them, I'm guessing. So yeah, I'm a fan of Block Science's work, even though some of their HackMD goes above my head. But Yeah, I have very similar experiences to The Alchemist. I bought my first rune when it was like, I think $1.2 or maybe $1. And I remember pinging a friend and telling him, hey, you know what? I got in late. It's already $1. And he was like, it's fine, hang in there. And I remember hearing maybe JP or Kai, I'm not sure, or both talking about the vision, maybe JP. And it was just a rune bill for me. And that was it. I think I did the whole the trough of despair and trough of sorrow and the trough of joy. Like I did the whole bell curve where I showed it to friends. And, I heard a few like expletives from German friends because, they bought in with me, and then it hit $8 and they're like, oh, this is awesome. And then it fell spectacularly. And they were like, we hate you. We have a baby on the way. And I was like, oh my God, I got to stop shilling rune to people. But yeah, it was the same journey. It was learning about BepSwap. It was absolute chaos for me. I was very, very new to crypto in general, but only like L1s. I'd never experienced anything like BepSwap before, so it was a hockey stick learning curve with everything. I learned about asymmetric pooling, about losses, about pool fees, about where my money went and why I don't see it anymore, about Thor yield, something like Thor yield. I think there were a few dashboard options before, and I learned about all of them having different addresses, needing different addresses. I went through all the bugs on TNS. I went through all the bugs on THORswap, THORstarter. I remember with THORstarter, I practically broke my laptop because I was like, I can't believe if I'm not in, I'm going to hate this. And it was 3 hours of pain trying to get X rune. And it was really late at night. I was like, screw this. I'm just going to go to bed. If I'm not got through, it's fine. And I woke up in the morning and, I owned like a large portion of the X rune pool. And I was like, okay, this looks good. And then over the next few days, it like went up significantly. And yeah, so I think I was also around when the hacks happened. And I don't know, I might have a slightly contrarian opinion to what The Alchemist said, but I wasn't bothered for a second. It was exciting that the hacker was sitting in Discord. It was really exciting for me because I was like, wow, now we won't get complacent. It was fun. I'm sorry, this is a weird thing to say, but it was actually pretty fun to see the way that they hacked, the sophistication of it, the fact that they bothered to come hack. I mean, to be honest with you, people need to pay to speak at Bitcoin Miami or wherever else. And one of the reasons you probably got flipped off, whoever was talking before, was because they paid heavy dollars to go sit on that panel and you probably didn't. So, is that really what we want to aspire for? Not really, right? So if you get hacked, that means, you're some kind of important. And I do a lot of relief work outside of crypto. I guess now crypto's taken over my whole life. So I do a lot of crypto relief work. And I think that's also why I enjoy THORChain so much, because I choose to live in questionable geographies sometimes. And sometimes a war breaks out and sometimes we're evacuated. And in your head, you're always like, this is why we put our money in THORChain. And even when the hack happened, like I was just like The Alchemist, I was one of the first few people in the East pool, and I think also the BNB pool, and I think a couple of them got hacked, and it was totally fine with me. I was like, that's fine. The treasury will top us up. I'm just interested in seeing what more comes out. Are there more loopholes? Are there more patches to be fixed? Are there more problems? That was the only thing that I was bothered about. The same thing today, though I've learned my lessons. I never ever shill rune ever. I never ask anybody to buy a rune, and when I see them hate on it, I'm like, yes, sell me a rune, sell it, I'll buy it. But it's and a lot of OG rune people sort of yelled at me at the start when rune was like $3 or whatever. They were like, don't get hopped up on hopium, learn to take profit, and that was just one thing I've never ever done with rune. Sorry, it's just the only token that has a lot of leeway in my mind, because we have this really weird thing in the crypto circles where we're like loyalties for people, not necessarily for tokens. I think rune is my only exception. I only ever bought rune. I've never ever sold it, even when it was $17. Only ever bought it and just park it and I forget about it. I don't have anxiety over it anymore, like, oh, I have so much IL, or oh, I exit such and such pool, so I don't have ILP anymore because I was trying to get into that other IDO on THORstarter. I just don't do that. I just park my money and I forget about it. So I'll stop talking now.
Dankeschön.
Great stories. I love hearing these early stories. Makes me jealous just how late I was, I guess. But props to you guys for being aware to this so early on. That's impressive.
Yeah, thanks for that. Let's keep it going. Let's keep going down the line here. Stacking Monero.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Hey, so yeah, similar stories. I guess I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said, but I've been in since the MCCN launch. I'm kind of just a Rune maxi, I guess you would say. So kind of what the way I utilize the platform is to increase my Rune position. So when Rune gets up into the when it was in the $13-15 ranges, I would asymmetrically place my Rune into a BUSD pool and just wait for the price to drop and then increase my Rune position. So basically, since I started since launch, I guess I probably doubled my Rune position. So conservatively, I guess I would probably be double of that. So I guess when I was listening to the guy talk about Litecoin earlier and asymmetrically putting his Litecoin in, if you are a maxi in any coin, I would steer away from asymmetrically putting your maxi coins into a pool where you're going to have loss on them. If you believe your coin's going to go up and you asymmetrically put it into a pool, you're going to end up with less coins if your coin is going up. If it's going up in price, you're going to end up with less coins. So I guess that's the one thing I would point out. For me, when Rune price is low, I'm sitting in straight Rune. When Rune price is hot, maybe in the middle, I might go a 50-50 Rune BUSD. If Rune price is high, I might be asymmetrically Rune against a UST pool or something like that. So I'm always trying to increase my Rune position, and that's something you can also utilize on any other coin. So if you're a Bitcoin maxi and you think the price of Bitcoin is too high, you could asymmetrically put your Bitcoin against a UST or a USD pool and increase your Bitcoin total sats. So just wanted to add that, and that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome, man. It's crazy because there's so many ways to utilize the liquidity pools in any way that you want. Like holding long term, really nice to go in symmetrically, and there's great ways to see other kinds of returns by doing strategic asymmetric ads, and a lot of those strategies are available in LP University. So if people are curious to learn about those, definitely go check that out. Thanks for your experience, man.
Yep, no problem.
Patriot.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm working right now, so I don't want to rehash a lot of what they said, but it's been quite a journey, has it not? I mean, it's been crazy, but it's been good times. I mean, with the exploits that we had, I know that's a similar topic, but I think that was kind of like the crux of the moments, like the true believers hung in there, and we figured out who the real community members were in that time. It was an emotional journey for sure, but the reason why I wasn't too particular bothered like Kat was I had watched videos of Chad say, we are expecting to get exploited, and so I know that vision was built in the design of it's probably going to happen because the protocol is so complicated. Now, I don't think we envisioned how severe it would be, but nevertheless, that foresight of limiting the amount of funds in the protocol was just genius. So I think you deserve credit for that, and that probably is what saved us, quite frankly. So, give yourself credit for that, and it was that idea alone. I'm like, you know what, these guys are thinking ahead. They're ahead of the curve. So, I was totally blown away. And it's just been, I cannot describe how an amazing of a journey this is. And I'm more of a fanatic, which eats every day. So the one question I wanted to ask you guys is there is a crypto conference in Austin coming up in the June 9th to the 12th. And I was wondering if you guys were going to be going to that or if there's any other crypto conferences you guys were going to, because I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of you guys in person in East Denver, and I definitely want to do it again. So with that, I'm going to mute myself, and thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I believe there's some plans for going to there's a couple conferences I think that week in June. So I don't have like a finalized plan or anything, but there will be people from THORChain there. Saigon is organizing, potentially some panels and just some ecosystem things. So keep an eye out for that. We don't have like a final thing yet. It's still in the works, but yeah, we'd love to see you there and we'll be able to meet there.
I'm planning to be there, by the way. So I'll be around that week to kind of support the community and meet people, chat, all that kind of stuff. So if anybody wants to come out and talk all things THORChain and like Cowsep and their Saigon's working on putting all this together, and he's doing a really great job so far. But a lot of things are in motion. A lot of things are kind of being hardened now, so nothing's kind of like absolutely hard at this moment. But we're all looking to kind of do some fun stuff in June in Austin. So if anybody wants to come out and hang out, welcome to come.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Do you know what conference that is? I think it was Consensus, but I think there were some other ones too that were also like, I don't know. I feel like there's always something conference going on in Austin.
Yeah, it's for the Consensus conference going on, and it seemed like this is like, I don't know if this is new. This is the same with the Bitcoin conference in Miami. There was just like 9 other conferences happening. Like there was the Monero conference, which I spoke there as well. And I think there was a Solana conference as well. And like lots of conferences happen in the same place at the same time on purpose, just so people can kind of like jump to both of them or multiple of them and experience the more conferences, I guess. So I think Consensus is probably the biggest one, but there might be more happening.
And vampire attacking the conferences. Makes sense.
It makes sense to me. I don't have a problem with that.
Don't wrap your Bitcoin.
Hi guys. I got into THORChain. I think I was introduced by Rune Ranger and Mihao, if I'm not mistaken. That was 2019. I even won some rune from Rune Ranger. I think by then we were taking our rune at Rune Vault. He gave me, I think, 300 rune, if I'm not mistaken again. Then from there was Beep Swap. I did take my rune there too. Then ChaosNet came through. Yeah, there was a guy called, when ChaosNet came through, or before that, if I'm not mistaken again, a guy called Kai or Akai. Oh, the guy he wasn't friendly at all, because he was saying that I shouldn't LP my rune because I might lose my fund, stuff like that. And my answer to him was like, look, dude, I think we're on Telegram. My answer to him was, dude, you worry about the technical stuff. If I lose my rune, it's fine, but I really need to LP my rune. And he blocked me through the Telegram, Twitter. Damn, like that guy, I think, yeah, he needs whatever. So, yeah, the experience so far, even when rune got hacked, I wasn't worried at all. Everything, like, it's fine. I believed because I did read through everything. And I was like, damn, this is going to be huge. Having the first protocol that can give all the layer 1 swap without any other sex, that's huge. And yeah, the experience has been good. I'm still LPing on THORChain via THORSwap, and I believe the project still has potential. Even my pinned tweet says $1,000 rune. Even before that was $2,000 rune. But I really believe that rune has a huge potential and still going to be the lead of the space. Thanks.
And I saw Rune Ranger left for a second there when he came up. Maybe that brought up some painful memories of giving you 300 rune for free. But congratulations on that. Nice job, man. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, man.
Zook?
But conversation moves towards, I'm curious about bottle. So I'd like Mark, if people know about the product, or maybe finding qualified developers. And also if anything unsurprised bottlenecks or obstacles to growth. So I'm just seeding that idea for a conversation. Thank you all for hosting the call.
Yeah, cool. Maybe we want to keep that seed planted and see if there's any other stories up here and then circle back to that.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll leave you up here.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
I think
Slave just sound.
Yo, how's it going?
What's up, man?
How you guys doing? So in the theme of going down memory lane, so a lot of you guys know I'm involved with LPU. I'm one of the admins over there. And just wanted to, I don't know, kind of talk about that a little bit. Like the day multi-chain launched was like the craziest day on LPU. I remember getting pinged at like 6 a.m. Eastern time. Like, it's on, here we go. And, actually in the weeks leading up to it, we were trying to get everybody to like, hey guys, just keep in mind, it's brand new. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be bugs and, you know, who knows what's going to happen. So just everybody kind of keep that in mind. And then the day it launched was absolutely insane. Like we were all hands on deck. You know, oh, my transaction didn't go through, or my Rune is gone from my wallet, but Bitcoin didn't go through. And it was just like, I mean, absolute insanity. But, and then pretty much through everything, the hacks, we were pretty slammed over there. Like, and we were still trying to figure out what was going on. So we were like between the dev channel and LPU and Twitter and, you know, DMing with everybody, just trying to figure out what exactly was going on. And then the hacker like sending messages, and it's been a crazy ride, but I've been here. And Chad, you know, Chad B, appreciate everything you guys have done, the team, but just wanted to hop in, say hey.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bud.
Yeah, and thanks for all you're doing with LPU. That's definitely been such a major community resource for everyone. And I don't think everything would quite be where it was without LPU. So props for that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You know, we've got a great team. Asians in here, Mephisto, just everybody on our team. We, you know, they're the ones that really keep it going. We got some really, really smart people. Sam Yap, I'd give a shout out to that guy. Between him and Asian right now, they're absolutely murdering LPU. We got a lot of other stuff going on in the background. So big shout out to all of our moderators that are, you know, really trying to help the community literally 24/7. Like, like if I'm not doing something, I like work or whatever, I am in the Discord. Like, and now with THORFi coming out, we're all actually, you should see our mod chat. It is like, we're constantly just trying to digest everything that we can to try to, you know, break it down into a consumer level understanding. So, you know, just know that we're working hard in the background for everybody. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, just want to hop up, say thank you guys. It's been a crazy year. Looking forward to another 10, man. So let's fucking go.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And thank you for everything that LPU does. Also, like, double shout out to Sam Yap. That dude is always moderating every single Discord chat. Sam Yap is underrated.
He's literally everywhere at once. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I was super stoked to bring him on. I had been watching his work in the dev chat, and you know, just like you guys said, everywhere. Telegram, like everywhere. And the guy really really gets it and has been, you know, just an absolute great addition to what we're doing over at LPU. So, all right,
awesome.
thanks, guys. I'm going to hop off here. You guys are awesome.
All right, catch you later. $60 finance.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Hope you're all right. I just wanted to share my story. I mean, I got into Rune back in 2020 or something when, maybe you remember when Andrew Kwan from what was it, Mechanism Capital? He shielded relentlessly. I think he left by now. I think. I mean, I haven't seen him tweeting anything about Rune anymore. But I mean, it's so cool just to sit here and hear all the different strategies that the guy is applying to add more runes. I mean, to that, I mean, I had a little bit of different approach than I guess most of you guys, because I mostly kept my rune on Sexes, on FTX, and it was such a wild ride even during the hack time, because all of a sudden, all the runes that you had on FTX that you could land on the margin lending side, when the THORChain network completely stopped, all of a sudden you were getting 150, 200% APY for lending out your rune during that time. So this was from a financial standpoint, it was one of the best times for everybody who kept their rune on the Sexes. Obviously, it was a horrible time for everybody. I mean, I remember very well, but I mean, it was at the big China crackdown downturn Bitcoin crash as well. So who knows where we would have gotten without the hack? Maybe we would have went down as well. So I mean, I don't really care, but it was really an interesting time. And like from all the guys who already described how they asymmetrically LP their rune to get more rune. It's really funny because I'm the other side of the trade. I try to arbitrage the native BEP2 rune spread as good as I can. It's really cool to get more rune simply from buying it on one side and then selling it on the other side, and then if price goes down, the spread lowers again, and you can reverse it by arbitraging it back and forth back to the BEP2 from the native. So that's also a really cool way to gain more rune. So everybody who's looking to make up a little bit, consider that. I mean, it got tremendously harder now with the synthetics because the trading is much more fluid, so it destroyed a little bit of our arbitrage profit, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it improved the trading experience, and it brought up the volume, so I'm completely fine with that if I don't make that much money anymore on the arbitrage. So I'm really looking forward to where we're going. Regarding maybe to close it out for the future, I mean, we discussed that last week in the call, that a lot of big guys and players, especially Nine Realm is talking to, they're looking for the mainnet launch. Is there already an internal discussion on what milestones we finally want to set to say, okay, we at least need to reach this and this amount to really declare it mainnet? I know we had the 100 node then for 6 months without an incident. Are there any other milestones you guys have in mind that you want to have clearly fixed before we go for a hard push for the mainnet?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that list of things required for mainnet is kind of like a moving object in some regard. Part of the problem I think we have, at least with the team, is that some people believe one thing and some people believe another thing, and so it becomes kind of a point of contention even internally between the core dev, in a sense. There are some people like myself who are kind of pushing it. Just we've got rid of the caps. We've got a couple extra chains added. We've seen pretty good consistent stability within the network. We've hit all these kind of milestones in a sense. We feel very confident about it in terms of its safety, security, reliability. That doesn't mean there's more things to improve, but I still feel very good about it. I think now is getting to be a good time to do it. But some other people, and it was in the core team with the Nine Realms, feel differently about that in the sense of they want to push it back another year or something like this. I've even heard floated to do other work as well. And it's different opinions. And in the end, not really matters to some degree, because the network still is what the network is. It doesn't actually change anything about the network itself. But I think we're getting close, and that's still an ongoing discussion and debate within the core team about when that is actually going to happen.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people also are maybe a little bit afraid of those coins that get unlocked as soon as we reach mainnet. I think some of the vested or of the locked coins will get unlocked as soon as we hit mainnet, or 6 months after. I guess maybe a few people are concerned about that. I don't know. Also, I wanted to shoot out to Meow Brains for handing out the physical rune coins. If somebody remembers that was also pretty cool. But go on, Chad.
I was concerned about that myself earlier on, just because it's a lot of unlocked tokens that will be hitting the market. And for many of those investors, they've already, surpassed a 10x on their investment. And that just, for a lot of investors, they kind of just dump once they hit 10x, if there's a good number to dump on. But I think some of the people on the team have kind of reached new deals with a lot of those investors, and saying that we'll give them their unlocked tokens now, as long as they, put it into nodes and contribute back to the network, and then they don't sell for, they can sell their profits, but not sell the principal for, I think, 6 months or a year, or whatever the hell the number was. There's a whole Medium article written about this on the Medium, the THORChain Medium, about this. So that, to me, that kind of alleviates any concerns that I did. Maybe it doesn't for you, but for me it does. It's because most of that rune is still going to be locked up into nodes and contributing value, contributing to the security of the network.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong with taking profits. I mean, you've invested early, you're up a lot. I mean, there's nothing bad with it. at all. I mean, I can completely understand those guys. But thanks anyway. Have a lot of fun here and enjoy.
Thanks for coming up, man. 0x Technical.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hey, yeah, so just wanted to share my story too, just hearing everyone talk about theirs. So yeah, my journey with crypto started in 2017, and I ended up having some Bitcoin and ETH, and then I took a break from it all after all the ICOs came out and things started dumping. And so like I took a break for like, I don't know, maybe like 3 years. But I had a friend who stayed in and kept following the space, and he was constantly shilling me projects. And of all the bunch that he told me about, I thought Rune sounded the most interesting. So I got into that maybe less than a year, maybe 10, 11 months ago. Found it really difficult at first, partially because I was pretty new to crypto in general. But I couldn't find a place to buy Rune, just to like hold some to just kind of see how things go. It took me a while. I eventually got to crypto.com and then bought some Rune. Couldn't figure out how to like get it out because I didn't really know about all the wallets at the time. So I just kind of left it in there and then been following you guys for like the last year. I was kind of heartbroken about the break, the hack that happened, because I have like a 12 hour a day job, so I don't really follow the space as closely as some of y'all do. And just being a huge fan of the whole multi-chain concept, when y'all got hacked and being an outsider, I was like, shit, this thing's done. But then you guys bounced back in probably like January or early this year, late last year. So I started just wading back into the space and trying to follow, and it's been incredible just seeing how everything has changed and how strong of a community and product you guys have built. So just kudos to you guys for that. I have a question about how do you get more like institutional adoption using THORswap if possible? Like I don't know how Coinbase or Gemini or any of those guys swap their products within their ecosystems or on the back end. But I think it'd be pretty cool to get Rune listed just as a way to introduce more mainstream people into the space. So curious if you guys have plans for that and where that might take THORswap.
Yeah, I mean, there are plans for that. There are conversations happening with institutions, and I'm not going to talk about individual ones, but just in general. There are conversations and interests from some that we're trying to foster and encourage and all these kind of things. I think probably the biggest blocker for most of them, if not all of them, is liquidity, right? And so a lot of these institutions are dealing with very large sums of funds in the billions, which is obviously a lot of money. And so THORChain is just too kind of small potatoes in a sense to do their swapping, because it's just the pools aren't deep enough is the simplest answer to it. And they don't really want to put in, I think, and this makes logical sense too, and I probably do the same if I were them, of like, if the Bitcoin pool is $100 million and they want to put in, some money, they don't want to be so big that they are the pool themselves, because that becomes kind of like too much pressure on a single LP in a sense. And so how much, Bitcoin can they actually put into the system, and is that enough to be value for them? That becomes kind of part of the calculus. My hope is that we can convince these institutions to kind of start small, not to put, all the eggs in one basket in a sense, and just kind of go all in per se. I'll be a bit more cautious about it. And just start with, some money here, some money there. And then by having them all do that, they're all just kind of building up the pool and deepening the pools and improving the liquidity in my network just naturally, just by them all acting together without them even knowing that they're acting together. And so I'm hoping to see over the time span of the next, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it's going to be, that we're going to see some more institutions getting involved, some big name institutions getting involved and announcing their interest and their collaborations and usage in this kind of stuff. But none of that's hard right now. None of that's, it's all in discussions and conversations right now. So, maybe that won't actually happen in the end. Who knows? But it's looking positive, at least in the current moment. But yeah, simple answer to your question, it's just a question of liquidity. So as we get deeper in terms of our pools, and we go from, $500 million in the pools right now to $1 billion to $10 billion and kind of growing from there, the deeper the things get, the more easy it is for big whale investors and institutions and people like Galaxy Digital or whatever, just naming a random one, for them to get in, right? And so it just causes more liquidity to come in. So liquidity kind of draws liquidity. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a magnetic force in some sense. So we'll see how it kind of irons out over the next 6 months or so. But I'm feeling pretty positive about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That totally makes sense. I mean, maybe even for just their fringe assets that they've got, a little bit they need to rebalance. It doesn't have to be the whole pool. What about getting Rune listed on some of these exchanges as well, just for more mainstream, regular retail investors to get into?
Yeah, getting Rune listed on, and I specifically want to say native Rune listed, has been historically been kind of problematic. Or difficult to get done. And that's partially because what Rune is in terms of being a Cosmos asset becomes problematic for a lot of exchanges. So for example, you still can't buy Luna, right, on a centralized exchange, like Coinbase, for example. You have to buy the ERC20 Luna, which isn't really the actual Luna. And exchanges, they do it that way because adding another ERC20 for an exchange like Coinbase is relatively simple. But when they want to add, native Rune or native Luna, it becomes much more complex for them. It takes a lot more resources, and they have to do a lot more security audits. They're very intense about, not only just looking through the code itself, but they also have to look through the imports of the other, Golang libraries that the THOReau project is importing. And so it's very time consuming and very expensive for Coinbase to list native Luna, as it is for listing native Rune. It becomes very difficult for them. But ERC20 is relatively simple and it has very little risk to it. Even in recent days, whatever, we've been talking to some people about listing Rune, and they go, "Oh, it's great, we can do that, no problem." And then we're like, "Hey, no, but don't list the ERC20 Rune. That's a bad idea. Don't do that too. Do the native." And they're just like, "Oh, all right." And it's just it kind of just changes the calculus for them in a way. So things have gotten weirdly better rather quickly, to be honest. I was and I think Chad Thoreau and Kyle could probably remember, I was talking about this topic, a month or two ago, whatever it was. And I was just very pessimistic on the whole native Rune being listed on exchanges. Just the reception that we were getting at the time was just a lot of red tape and just horse shit and just straight up just bullshit. It is nonsensical bullshit. And it was really frustrating to see that and be kind of blocked by it. But weirdly enough, and I don't know why, the market just been shifting and exchanges have been more open lately to listing Rune than they were previously. And I don't know why that happened or what happened or something happened or whatever. Maybe it's just the Rune price went up, a month ago because we launched Terra and whatever else happened. But just mentalities have been changing, which is obviously a good thing for us. I'm not sure if anything's been actually inked in quite yet per se, but we're having many conversations with various exchanges that are showing interest, which is a positive thing. But those things always take a lot of time to get them to understand what the implications are, what they need to do to set up a full node so that they can actually, trade or at least transfer internally without requiring external servers and that kind of thing. So it's an ongoing process, an ongoing conversation, and it's just a long drawn process. It's just got a long cycle to it. But I think we're going to see more of that. It seems like based upon the reception that we're getting, that I'm seeing and talking to people now, it's feeling more positive to me now than it was even a month or two ago. And so I'm feeling quite positive that something is going to happen over the next few months or something that will kind of get us listed on a reasonably good exchange that is well known and has good users behind it. And naturally, if that were to happen, if, for example, if I'm just use Binance as an example, if Binance were to list the native Rune, the transaction volume or the trade volume on THORChain would also drastically increase, not just because of the attention of Binance, but now you have a more direct way or another mechanism to actually arbitrage all the pools. It's actually would likely just drive a lot more volume into the network, which is obviously very positive for every rune holder and everybody who's LPing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping something will happen in the near future. I can't guarantee anything. Nothing's been like solidified in ink at this time, but not more of it at least. So, but I'm feeling more positive about it.
Great. Thanks for enlightening me on that. And lastly, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work and building an incredible product. I think the V2 interface looks sleek, sick. I feel like I can actually use it as like a non-routine crypto person. And so thank you guys.
That was all the THORswap people. THORswap is a completely different team, but we'll take the credit for it. Thank you.
Oh, all right.
Congrats to THORswap for releasing their V2 interface, by the way. It does look beautiful, but yeah, that wasn't built by the THORChain core team.
No, it's okay. I'll take credit for everything that everybody else does. That's fine.
I made a couple of videos about it, so I'll take credit for it.
Hey, Prime Directive.
Hey, thank you. This is Prime. Currently a community manager over at THORstarter, and was actually admin on the original THORChain Discord server. I don't think I heard much about Rune Vault, so I just wanted to give a shout out to the old school Rune Vault OGs, and it's so cool to sit here and hear everyone's stories about where they all started, where all this started. I'm even looking at the title of this conversation. It says 1 year of MCCN, and I can clearly remember waiting a year for MCCN, and thinking back of how, so thank you, because this whole THORChain deal has definitely, changed my life and in many ways provided a platform for me to learn a lot of really cool stuff about, now I have some applicable skills to the market, just based on my community experience. And also, financially, it's been a great win for me. I heard about Rune from Scoopy, the founder of Alchemix, on, just a private server we used for, brainstorming and stuff during the, I guess it's what it evolved into Alchemix. But, he mentioned he showed up on there one day and was like, wow, guys, you got to look at Rune. I totally see this as like easily $100 token. And, I trusted him enough to just be like, all right, I don't even need to look at this. If he's saying this now the way he's saying it, just threw a couple bucks in and, just averaged in. And I can remember being on a trip with my family and the price of Rune just kept going up, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh man, 16 cents. That's like, double what I paid for it. And then, so I just went for it again and just kind of averaged in little bits. In hindsight, it would have been great if I was just throwing like thousands of dollars in there, every week. But that Rune Vault, another memory of the Rune Vault was like, I remember going in there, I think it was weekly that we got to kind of collect our earnings. And, I would just be grabbing, like when I first started, I was only getting like 20 Rune a week. And then, I think it went up to like 100 or something like that. And back then I was like, oh, okay, it's another $20 in my pocket. No big deal. And I can clearly remember like when the price was going crazy and we were, around $20. I actually went and looked back at my transactions. I was like, oh my God, I was collecting $1,000 a week. And back then I just thought it was like pocket change. But, I also heard Kai mentioned a few times on here, and, I didn't have a ton of experience with him, but, I will agree. Almost everything I heard was negative. So I would agree that, there was, sort of an abrasive nature to a lot of his communication. But, I'd also like to say that I know that he was about the business, but he got stuff done. And I saw him as, a powerful asset back in the day too. So if anyone else has anything positive to share about him, or, I don't know what happened to him. I don't really even know a lot about him or what his actual job was. It's been a mystery to me. So it was cool to hear his name come up. If anybody can fill in a blank on Kai, for me, that would be awesome. And with that, I am complete. Thanks again.
I don't have anything to add on the Kai front, but yeah, we can. I don't know if anyone else wants to, or if not, then we could move on. All right, Mr. Animal.
Me either.
What's up? What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
What's up, man?
I actually wanted to. No, I don't. I've never really met Kai. I've never really met any of you guys per se, but I was back just to get a little like the olden days. I was actually a person that held Rune at BEP2 before the chaos or MCCN and stuff like that. But actually I got hacked and I was just like, and I lost everything, which is why you don't give people, your phrases and stuff like that. Rookie mistake. But I was like, nah, screw this. Like I'm not really into this. Like I don't know. This crypto stuff's too I don't know, too complicated. Like I don't want to lose my money, right? But then I actually jumped back in, speaking about Prime Directive, jumped back in for Xrune because I was like, oh, IDOs, well, that's how people make their money, right? So I want to start doing that. And then I started getting more into the community after that. And I was like, wow, everyone, and this is why it's kind of interesting about the Kai thing, everyone in the Thor community is not an asshole. Like at least from my perspective. But I mean, I live in a state, I'm from America. I live in a state where probably everyone's an asshole. So like, oh yeah, you guys are relatively cool. But no, I truly no one is really demeaning. No one's really sense of like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Like I've met so many people from other chains and not to shit on any chain or anything like that, but we're just like, bro, like what the fuck? Like, why are you here? Like, I'm like, well, I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand and how we can, better whatever this may be, this space, this society, whatever it is. And with Rune, I'm just like, hey, I have a question. And then people are like, oh, here, let me break it down. And especially with what you guys, who you've deemed your kind of, I guess, for the lack of a better term, PR people, with Chad and Familiar Cal for, not necessarily THORChain specifically, but, just different projects and stuff. Is great. It's, I got a degree in communication, and one of the, which I know sounds like, oh my God, like you got a communication degree. Are you poor? But like the way you communicate and the way that they're able to communicate complex things on a more I guess broad-based society, I don't want to say layman terms, but to say layman terms, the ability for you guys to explain that to people makes it such an inviting experience for a lot of people. And so, I used to be whatever made me money. Now I'm like, I'm a Rune person, and I'm not a Rune person because I think, necessarily Rune is amazing. I do think it's amazing, but I think the community and the people who are behind it and the relationships that people could make in the community by going to an event or something. I haven't been to an event mostly because, I'm working all the time, but is more valuable than the token itself. That's the value of the token. It's kind of like an NFT in of itself because you're building your NFT is to this party because you're a Rune holder and you know what it's like to LP and do all this and stuff like that. So it's just interesting. So I just wanted to say that I had a great experience because I've had horrible experiences in crypto, either through my own stupidity or through, just people being assholes. And I want to thank you guys for that. Especially that's what makes this place so successful is that you guys are building, there is no like Maximus kind of thing where it's like, everything that's not Bitcoin is a shitcoin. Like that's just toxic. That's just stupid. That's no different than the banks saying, oh, you guys are a bunch of losers. Like it's not great. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, man. Just for Chad THOReau and me, we weren't super early into Rune. Like we found this now we're up 100x or whatever. Yeah, we just me and Chad THOReau joined a little more than a year ago before the ChaosNet launch, and just have seen what a good and novel idea THORChain is, and I'm just curious and, hungry to learn more about it. And then once you learn more, you just want to share that with other people because you realize how deep it goes and what a innovation that it actually is. So, it's all just because the underlying tech is so interesting, and the people here are really interesting because they put a lot of time into understanding what this is. And the people in the THORChain community are just so smart, man. Like it's crazy how much experience and knowledge that everyone in this community has. And it's really cool being able to hear that all the time, just listening to people in this space, every Friday, Mondays, and then just talking with people every other day of the week. It is just so cool being able to talk to the THORChain community all the time. It's just a bunch of rock stars like every single corner.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. No, I was just going to say thanks for that. It's great to hear, and definitely like what we're all trying to do is make it simple and understandable and welcoming. And I think an interesting part is, I think that ethos is really baked into what THORChain is doing itself, right? So I think that kind of is a natural emergent property of the THORChain community, is because what THORChain is doing is fundamentally bringing all of crypto together and like actually being mutually beneficial with these other chains. Whereas the maximalism comes from every chain thinks that every other chain is trying to take away from what they're doing, right? Like the people that are only in the Bitcoin maxi mentality, they still haven't realized that other chains are solving different problems. So they still see every chain as like a threat to their solution. Or when you have like L1s versus L1s, like smart contract chains, like they all think the next one is just something to siphon liquidity out of theirs. And it just becomes this confrontational, tribalistic argument, right? Whereas THORChain just sits in the middle like, hey, we can all succeed. And like THORChain actually brings freedom to this entire space. So I think that attracts a different type of person, right? Like I was joking around once that like THORChad is like a personality type. Like it really is, because it's a different, it just feels different than most of the crypto space, because there's none of that, because there doesn't have to be, because THORChain actually just adds to the whole space instead of, being competitive in a sense. So yeah, it's great to hear that, and appreciate it.
Yeah, just to add one more thing too, kind of like what you guys were saying, like both Familiar and Chad T, you guys didn't really come from this, at least that I know of from what you guys have said, like a big liquidity moment where you made a shit ton of money and you're like, oh my God. You came from just like where I came from, which is like some person on Twitter and then got into a project and like, oh shit, this project is dope. Like that brings it more authentic than, some chain hiring or having some big influencer who had a liquidity event and made a shit ton of money saying, oh yeah, that's why this chain is amazing. Because they profited off of it. Like, not saying that no one's profiting off of this. I think we all are, but it's like, it's coming from a different perspective than a monetary perspective. And that makes it authentic. You could buy an influencer, you could have a THORChain, like some people might think, and this is no heat to anyone, but that Chad Barraford has, is shilling this project because, it's his baby, he should. And then two, he's making money off of it. But I mean, I don't really think of that as like a reason. I think is because he has this conviction of no, like we need to do this, which is another thing of the authentic purpose that you guys are saying with the THORChain thing. And that's what makes it amazing, the way you communicate. So like, I would say never hire some random influencers. Like if JRNY crypto says, oh, THORChain, or like you hire them, never. That would just lose. Like I work in influencer marketing. And so like, that's going to be bad, but that's what I love about it. And the authenticness. And then I guess to add on that, I don't know if Hillary is related to Chad, but why Chad do you not have a check mark and Hillary does? But that's it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, so that is my sister. Hillary is my sister. She's an actress in LA. She got check mark because she got it years ago when it was relatively easier to get. And also she's just a very well-known person in her own community. And I guess she's, good at this stuff in many respects. I would actually like to get a check mark. It's kind of fun, even though it's completely purposeless to some degree. But it's a lot more difficult today. They're a lot more stringent about who they give it out to, in a sense.
Well, they should definitely give it to crypto people like you, because I'm sure there's, especially as THORChain gets bigger and bigger, there's going to be some fake Chads DMing people asking for seed phrases if there's not already.
I mean, there are definitely fake Telegram accounts that I've seen. I mean, right now, if you go to Telegram, you just like type in my name, you'll find like at least one, if not more, fake Telegram accounts of people trying to scam people. So just so everybody knows, I will never ask anybody for their seed phrase or any money for any reasonable reason, just so everybody knows that. If I ever reach out to you asking for your funds or whatever, don't give it to me. Don't do it.
Hey, Mr. Animal, it's actually kind of funny you brought up Journey Crypto, because people in his camp are actually do know and supportive of Rune. Guys like LEO Trades brought THORChain up on their channel quite often, and and obviously none of this like marketing is paid for. It's all just because people learn about THORChain because they learn of its actual innovation and community and what it brings to the entire space, not because of any kind of like paid shilling or whatever. Like that stuff will never happen, but marketing stuff is in the works. So
by the way, I just relatingly, I just read this article, like I think it was yesterday, about Moon. Yeah, the other thing, like MoonPay raised like $87 million from like Gwyneth Paltrow and Drake and Justin Bieber and like Paris Hilton, and like there's like a long list of like 30 different, like 60 different, actually sorry, at least 60 different celebrity investors to invest almost $100 million into MoonPay. And I remember reading this thing, I was just like, who the fuck cares what Gwyneth Paltrow is putting her money into? I mean, who gives a rat's ass? Why does that matter at all? It made me just laugh on the floor, just laughing at how ridiculous this industry has become in some ways.
I'm going to have to get you that candle that smells like Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina.
Get it for my birthday.
I mean, to add on to that, I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow, I mean, I don't really know much about them, but I mean, I assume they're of the older age and the more like what I guess for the lack of a better term, but boomer age. And it could be, hey, we're having people from this kind of age range get into crypto. Maybe it's like people will be like, oh, if they can do it, then I can do it too. I know with my company, we did a lot of like music related stuff. So we had J. Cole, we had a bunch of other people kind of part of our project. And it kind of helped certain people in certain aspects of life be like, oh, yeah, okay, if they can do that, even though J. Cole is worth millions and millions of dollars, his story behind him was similar to other people. And then they're just like, okay, yeah, I can do this, I mean, it was more media and music related kind of marketing. So it's a little different than like, some not obscure, but some like older actor. But I mean, I don't know, like having people like actually I think the best marketing thing for THORChain is have people from the community and who are from all different walks of life, different countries and stuff like that, ages and personalities and stuff, and like talk and do this kind of thing. Like you were saying, like your experience with THORChain, like how it's either helped them. Like I've gotten for somewhat financial freedom from THORChain and crypto, but having their stories be told is probably the best thing and best marketing thing you could do, because it's most likely authentic, because you're not paying them, like it's their experience, and using that to kind of leverage, hey, these are just normal people. I didn't know there was people from my company from Australia who were in THORChain until I was like, hey, this is me. And they're like, oh yeah, I work for the same company. I was like, oh shit. Like I thought I was the only person that part of that lifestyle that did that. But now I realize you guys all love partying, and I'm like, yes, fuck yeah, let's do it. So, I mean, I think telling the stories of you guys and not even like the bigger THORChain people, but just like some more like 900 followers or whatever, or some other type of different stories and backgrounds, would be really, really helpful, because then, someone like me who didn't know anything about crypto would be like, oh yeah, I'm like that person. I can do this. It's just getting that confirmation of I can do it. This is going to help me. This is going to help other people. It's just kind of a good thing. But I know I talk a lot, so I'll say one more thing. And then if you could get me off, just because I don't know how to work Twitter Spaces at all. But if you guys want to do, I know you're doing a lot of parties, a lot of conferences. If you guys want to do one in the Bay Area or Central California, just hit me up. I work in nightlife and whatnot, so we could definitely set something up for sure. So just let me know.
Awesome, man. Thank you. We have Schwarzakatsi up here again.
Oh, I requested quite a while ago. I guess it's sort of this weird segue marketing THORChain, because that was something everyone was talking about. And I think one of the few things that isn't spoken about enough is the fear of CBDCs and nation states. The fact that there's going to be a lot of CBDC oppressed or CBDC refugees, as I've been coining them in my head for a while now, who are going to be running away from their governments or have their monetary tokens, like, I don't know, like USD or whatever native fiat it is that they've been basing their life savings off, sort of really, it's going to have a lot of inflation tied in. It's not going to be worth much anymore. And at a time like that, or supposing you're a charity, for instance, and you've been trying to get charitable donations, and the world's going to shit. You have a global depression, you have a pandemic, you have war, and everything else that comes in between. The only thing that would survive is true decentralization. So when I look at the little ticker on Discord, waiting for the nodes to upgrade, waiting for the churn to happen, sometimes I think the guys that I know at THORChain is like, hey, how much more time to go? And they're like 6 hours, maybe 48 hours. I don't know, go to sleep. Wake up tomorrow and figure what you're doing because, the node hiccuped, the master node hiccuped. That's proof that this is utterly decentralized. No one else is doing this. With the launch of vault nodes or the further more expensive master nodal structures where you need even more rune to sort of bond to build this, no one is doing that. I don't even get why most people aren't speaking of it, but I feel like they aren't because they're scared. They don't know how to decentralize. And THORChain's already, you have like a working prototype. I'm only going to call it a prototype because we have a long way to go. But the truth is that, it's complicated to build decentralized structures because you have to, there's a huge margin of human error and human dependence. You have to depend on other people waking up in their different timelines and sort of upgrading their nodes before you get there. And I know a few people who run Thor nodes, and we've been sort of bullying them into really shutting down and going off to decompress to a hotel or some such because they're up at all hours, they're getting paged all the time, Binance nodes down, things down. But I think it's just such a lesser interoperability and true decentralization is such a lesser spoken of aspect of DeFi in general. And I think as we go along, that's one of the few things that THORChain will really dig a flagstaff in. But miles to go before we sleep, as we say. It's a long way.
I think what you say really rings true, especially because you could look at like a very centralized network and you could see how quickly that they can bring about new things like Stargate launch, for example, like putting in billions of liquidity in like less than a week, pretty much just from VCs, and how quickly they can adapt to changes. And that's just, it's completely different when you're dealing with a decentralized network like THORChain. Like because if you've spoken to a node operator, or you've just like been snooping around and like seeing how updates actually work on THORChain, that it's actually it is anonymous, completely anonymous people running software that runs the THORChain blockchain and all the swaps that happen on it. Like, that it's not just some Coinbase server that's taking profits out. It's pretty insane that this technology is so decentralized already, and it's such in its infancy. And I think the decentralization really gives it makes it harder to bootstrap and get to where we need to be, but it gives it that. But the decentralization is what gives us the longevity. Once we get there, that's what makes it kind of an unstoppable force, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's also why,
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's also why it's going to be hard for you guys to get not mainstream adoption as much as mainstream shill. And that's okay. What I've been trying to say is that it's okay, because if you have to go through that bell curve, if you don't go through that bell curve, you're just another DEX in a landscape where there's like 10,000 DEXs and so many more mushrooming every day.
Yeah, what I was going to add was that to add on to something that you said earlier, that I do find that a lot of other projects, they want to be decentralized, like they're saying they're going to be decentralized, but they launch with a very centralized mentality because it's a lot easier to build that. You can get up and running, in a matter of a couple of months if you just kind of run everything in house more or less, or whatever. And then but they have no path to centralization. Like they say what they want to get there, and you ask them, okay, all right, what steps are you going to do to get to that place? And they're like, I don't know, we're going to figure it out some point in the future. And just like, well, that doesn't really give me a whole lot of confidence in, what you're doing if you don't actually have a clear vision of your path. And I think that's one thing that makes THORChain unique, that we thought about decentralization from day one. We launched with decentralization in mind. We didn't want to have any team run, nodes. We wanted it to be available for everybody. Of course, that made it, more difficult by a significant margin. And it made us kind of launch single chain chaosnet and multi-chain chaosnet a lot later. We could have launched probably 6 months or a year earlier if we wanted to like say, okay, we're going to launch but the team's going to run all the nodes, right? We could have done that. And we actually had that conversation at one point of like, do we want to just get up and running, or do we want to run it with us running the nodes, or do we want to like wait until we've fully kind of worked out and tested and all these things about making it safe for anonymous individuals to run the nodes? And so we ended up obviously going the direction we went, which we just said, let's not rush it. Let's get it right. Let's show people that this actually can be decentralized without us being involved us as core devs being involved with the actual running of the network in the least. And so that I find that common within the entire industry, especially in this particular area that we're in, this multi-chain area, that people are not thinking about decentralization because centralization is so much easier and quicker and like, you can move tons of funds like Wormhole does, or whatever, in massive quantities without actually really being quote unquote decentralized.
All right. Prime Directive is up again, and then we'll have one more person up and then we'll wrap up.
Hey, thanks. I just wanted to add real quick that, for one, Alchemix is not my project. I'm not a developer. I was just fortunate to be part of brainstorming conversations as a creative problem solver and a meme creator. However, that THORChain and Alchemix are two of my all-time, favorite projects that have made the most impact on my life, to have the most personal connections to and friends in. I've heard the self-repaying loan conversation come and go, THORChain, and every time I hear it, I just feel it deep in my gut. And it's not just about the self-repaying loans, just some of the things Alchemix is doing. It just seems like I just have, and as someone who's not a dev, like, maybe this is an impossible thing, but like I always feel it deep in my gut, when I hear the self-repaying loan conversation. And just curious, I'm just wondering, is that possible, for two projects of that magnitude to work together on something like that? Or is there anything else that, that's been, mentioned or on the table that, is it possible for any kind of a synergistic relationship? And I'd also add that if it is possible, I would be happy to facilitate conversations or make connections or anything like that if that's something that's being looked at for the future. I'm complete.
This is a common question I sometimes hear about the idea of self-repaying loans in the THORFi design. So what it really comes down to is there's really two choices here. Now you can do self-repaying loans within THORChain. That's not necessarily an issue. It's totally possible, but you're thinking about what you're giving up, right? So the choice is either this. You can either do self-repaying loans, and you wouldn't have the ability to do Thor savings. So your ability to earn BDC on your BDC without room exposure would go away. Or you can, and also, self-repaying loans and without savers, that would go away. Or you can do what we kind of are proposing to the community, which is no liquidations, and we have the ability for Bitcoiners to earn on their Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatnot. Out of those two choices, the latter feels more correct, in my opinion, than the former. The reason why is because one addresses fear, right? Like no liquidations addresses fear, which is a more primitive emotion than somebody doing self-repaying loans, which is guided mostly by greed, right? And greed is a kind of a higher level emotion in a sense. And so the no liquidations with the ability for savers, to me, is a much higher value proposition than repaying loans without the ability to do savers. And you'd have to have liquidations as well in that scenario.
Brilliant. Thank you.
It's really interesting. I never thought about that before. That was an awesome explanation, man. And it makes a lot of sense because you want people to, feel positive about their choice to use THORChain, and you could make the loans auto repaying, and it's better for the people who have taken a loan and then it gets auto repaid. But at the same time, then you'd have liquidations and there's problems that go along with that. So that's really interesting. I never thought about the two as fear and greed, sort of.
Another way to look at it is that when you're doing a self-repaying loan, you're technically, what's actually happening is that you're taking future yield that you will receive, and you're getting access to it now to be able to, do something with it now, which is a really interesting concept. In the end, you actually are still paying the loan, right? It's just you're paying it through a different mechanism, but you're still paying for it. It's not like you're getting a free loan, right? Sometimes people see it that way. Reality is you're just getting what you will have earned in the next year. You're getting it now, which is a valuable thing to provide. I love Alchemix and what they're doing over there. It's a really great project and a great team, and I'm a fan of it, although I haven't used it myself personally, or most of those things in the Ethereum space. But like, for me, one of the goals that I wanted to see, at least in my own mentality of what I was trying to accomplish with the lending specifically, was that the biggest problems that I see within the lending space is that it's incredibly stressful. Like everybody I've ever talked to and in the lending that I've done in the past, like everybody is so stressed the fuck out when they take out a loan in the DeFi space in general, because of liquidations, because of like variable rate interest rates that can, inflate themselves to 40% or higher or whatever. And then like everybody gets kind of freaked out. Like it requires you to kind of constantly have your finger on the pulse of your own loan, which can kind of have like a mental tax on people, right? In a matter of speaking, like it's kind of a non-tangible cost that you're paying that you're not really quite realizing when you took the loan out. And so what's one of the things I want to see with this system is like, I want to give a lending design platform for the entire crypto industry that gives them a loan where they can actually, theoretically buy a house and not worry about it at all and be able to pay that loan back in their own due time. It doesn't have to be next year or 5 years or even 10 years. I don't give a shit. It can be anytime you feel like it. And that's perfectly fine. And that give people the ability to do that without having any stress at all about that entire process. Like that is, to me, that is a form of providing a liberty to people so they can actually improve their lives and get access to a house or a car or something of this nature and be able to do that without, an undue stress. Like to me, that is much more significant in the space and what that can provide, like humanity in itself, than the idea of like I can degen the hell out of this thing and like gain on my gains. I'm personally less interested in degens and like the degen mentality in general. It's just not what I'm interested in. It's outside of the span of like trying to provide a service that changes humanity, that improves the human condition in a matter of speaking. And so that's what I'm more focused on personally. But then that's mean everybody on the core team that feel the same way that I feel. I might be different than some other people, but that's just how I look about it and how I feel about it, if that makes sense to me.
That was beautifully put and inspiring for sure. And yeah, it's such a next order style of thinking versus like a normal DeFi loan or whatever. And I know myself, and I'm sure a lot of people listening that are Luna fans can relate to that anxiety just in the past week or so. Like I'm monitoring my LTV every day recently, and it's not fun for sure. And the point that you made is like really powerful. Is like that type of loan, like you're not going to really buy a house or something like that because you're kind of more just degenning around and having it liquid so you're ready to pay it back. Whereas something like a THORFi loan, it's like you won't have that time pressure or that like LTV pressure. And the interesting thing I thought of too is like if the collateral goes way up in value, but the borrower does not pay it back to redeem their collateral because they bought a house or whatever, that's actually best for the protocol, right? Because now the protocol is just sort of like owning temporarily this like more valuable collateral that's not being claimed back. All of that collateral is still generating yield for savers. So that's a really interesting angle, because otherwise you would just have this like immediate, like, well, of course I'll take it back or borrow a little more or whatever. But if you bought a house with it, then you probably won't.
Right. And all that collateral is just staying in the pools, right? Keeping them deep, which is what we all kind of want to see happen. And that's kind of one of the primary goals of the network is to create deep liquidity pools so people can trade and do all the things they want to do. And so like, you're right. Like if somebody buys a house, which is obviously very expensive, and it takes them like 30 years to pay it back, which is the traditional house loan is like a 30-year loan, commonly at least, depending on your style or approach, whatever. In over 30 years, what's going to happen to the Bitcoin price? It's going to go from, the 40,000 it is now, or how the number is, to tens of millions of dollars, like in my opinion, right? And so all of that Bitcoin it's just going to stay in the network until somebody, pays back their loan and they get their Bitcoin back. right? So having no time limit on these loans is a very freeing thing, but also a very valuable thing from the network itself, network perspective. Both people kind of gain from that. Both actors gain from that scenario, which is very, very interesting.
Nicely, let's bring up Marcus. What's up, man?
Hey guys, was wanted to kind of respond to something Chad just mentioned a little earlier about, the simplicity of centralized exchanges versus decentralized at present. And I, give a huge shout out to the THORswap team, who, just released version 2 and the aggregator is coming, who are making that a lot more simple for people, because really the route to mass adoption, and it's a well-known mantra, is that we've got to stop talking about the technology. As much as fun it is for people who are tech heads and nerds in that respect, the reality is it's only when we shift from talking about the technology to the use case that people are going to kind of buy in or begin to use the protocol without even realizing it. And it goes back to, the announcement that Jack Mallers made at the Bitcoin conference, where, Strike and Lightning are going to, in effect, redefine the payment rails that have been in existence for 60 odd years. And that kind of reflects as well, if I think about Shapeshift and how they have decentralized themselves and are using, in effect, THORChain as their kind of foundational layer, if I could put it like that. And the reality is, if you're using Shapeshift, you may know you're using THORChain, but the reality is you probably don't. And that's obviously where we want to move forward. So I'm just kind of curious, just Chad, and it was good to meet you down in Miami, along with Mogarky and a few others. But do you have any kind of updates on other kind of protocols, concepts, ideas that are thinking about and reaching out to the THORChain kind of dev team to talk about, integrating THORChain? And I'm just kind of curious as to, is there some movement on that? Thanks.
Yes, there's always movement on that. It's one of the primary goals or responsibilities of the Nine Realms team, to reach out and connect and talk with various projects for chain integrations, DEXs and DEX aggregators for integrations, wallets, manufacturers, integrations there as well. So there's always a conversation happening on many fronts at any given time with many of these different chains or wallets or DEXs or whatnot. Different ones progress more quickly than others. They're very much all of them are slow to one degree or another. At least from like any outside observer would say it feels slow, and it feels slow to me too. But some of them require more kind of conversation and more handholding than others. Some just kind of get it, what THORChain is doing. Well, I would say a very small minority actually just get it, and most of them require like an explanation of what THORChain is and why it's different and why it's valuable. And to me, it's a little bit weird because to me, it just seems so like, and just because I've just been around for such a long time and I've been thinking about it so deeply for such a long period of time, but like, it just seems like blatantly obvious, but to these other teams, it's not necessarily blatantly obvious. And so we have to go through that process of trying to educate. And I've noticed that sometimes that like their biases become hindrances or walls to break through, or they kind of, I was talking to somebody recently and somebody on a team, I won't name which one, but they were saying that like they were putting THORChain and other like in Wormhole and the other things like as if they were the same thing, as if they accomplished the same goal or had the same kind of security risks or had the same, and obviously that's ludicrous. I mean, it makes sense if you haven't looked into the depths of any of them. And from like a high level, like, from a user's perspective, like, oh, they all do transacting things across chains, I guess. At that kind of high level, it makes sense. But the more you read about it and you dive into the depths, as I have, it becomes blatantly obvious that these things are nowhere close. That it's like practically insulting to put them in the same, in the same bucket in a sense, because it's just like, it's a kind of a ludicrous comparison in many ways. So there's always that going on, and always varying degrees of success, always varying degrees of movements. Each one of these teams has their own dev cycle, their own roadmap that they have already planned out. And so where do you kind of slice THORChain in, and that dev's roadmap is always kind of a tricky thing. And obviously we have no control over that ourselves. We just have to encourage them to make it a high priority because of the value proposition that we're giving to their community. But it's going to be something going on for a very long period of time throughout the entire year. I'm hoping to see that the things just kind of land at different times throughout the year. We'll see things kind of landing. I can't guarantee anything, obviously. Everything's just in the works and everything's up in the air. But we're actively working with a significant amount, a very large quantity of individual projects to get interactions and that kind of stuff. Integrations and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll add a couple of thoughts. So I've also participated in a lot of these integration conversations. And I think, like Chad is getting at, there's a lot of kind of folks reasoning by analogy for some of these things. And the reality is that kind of like distorts, how THORChain can fit into their these other products. And I think that the other thing that we're finding is that, there's a whole multi-chain stack or cross-chain stack that, these different products need to get kind of educated on. And then the kind of aha moment is that you can plug into native Bitcoin. So just like getting folks to that point in a conversation can take a while. When we talk about Bitcoin, they're thinking their mental model is all around wrapped Bitcoin. And then it takes, 30 minutes into the conversation before they get that it's native. So there's a lot of friction on the education side, on the technical side, and then getting them to that aha moment. So yeah, we're pushing on a lot of fronts. I think there's, 20 or 30 different integrations that we're tracking and pushing on. So a lot of progress there, more to come. And we're also working hard on that kind of cross-chain tech stack so that we can explain that very easily and reduce the friction on their engineering team.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. That's it for today. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. This is a really fun one. And thanks to everyone who shared their early stories and reflected on all the progress that we've all witnessed. Really cool to hear everyone's experiences, and just makes me even more excited for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 20 years. And we'll be here for it.
I just saw Cam jump in. Cam's from Delphi, and I was going to pull him on stage, but then he just dropped right back out. God damn. I was going to get him on stage because he just wrote this really great report about THORChain. He did like deep analysis into the actual data and metrics.
DM him real quick. I'll stay on.
All right, see if I can hit him up.
Yeah. Also, speaking of that, we need to get. We've been needing to get Do Kwon on a Terra launch space. That's been not happening for way too long.
Yeah, Do's a big shot.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll say a couple minutes here.
Yeah,
it'll happen.
I'm cool with that.
I just DM'd him on Telegram to try to pull him back in. So I'd love to have him talk to the community and just talk about what he found and all that kind of stuff. Because it was a great. I mean, it was a great read. I know it's expensive to get. Like I think the subscription is like $1,000 a month, and I understand that's outside of the reach for many people. But the document was just like such a great read, and like, it's hard to read that thing and not feel super bullish at the end of it.
Yeah, and it kind of just shows that obviously these aren't like paid shills or anything like that. It shows that people who have very, very sharp minds in this space are actively looking at THORChain and see that the value of THORChain is real and tangible, and the network is just like kind of still bootstrapping. It's not late, it's very early. Especially one of their points saying that THORsynths are the most efficient capital in all of DeFi is absolutely just insane.
Yeah. So that report is like, you can think of it as like the opposite of a moon boy. Do you know what I mean? Like, where moon boys just kind of like pump shit just to pump it and whatever. And like just kind of highlight the positive only and that kind of stuff. Like Delphi Digital in general, they're not moon boys of anything, even though like THORChain was actually THORChain was the first investment that Delphi Digital made, and I didn't know this until recently, until I was at the Ethereum conference, but they maxed out everything they had, and they just like put even more onto their credit cards. like they went like heavy in because they did this like super deep economic analysis of the design, and they released a report. Like this is way back when. This is like it must have been in 2020 at some point, where like the rune price was at like 8 cents. Early days. I remember this too because like we had so many meetings with them, myself and other early individuals, where they were just asked us questions like, "What about this? And what about that?" And like, if this happened like this, then what would happen like this? And then like this, we're constantly trying to like. It took us like many meetings and interviews, whatever, to like explain every nuance and every nook and every cranny. And they just like went all in after they kind of realized how solid the economics were, how solid the design was. It wasn't about hype and this kind of, and getting Drake and Justin Bieber to sign online or whatever. But like it actually was fundamentally like a really strong design and offers something that nobody else in the space can, and does it in a way solving a problem that nobody else can solve. And so they were just like, this is kind of an obvious investment. So they went like super into it. They bought in, I think it was like, it's between 10 and 20 cents, I guess, somewhere. And they just went super into it. And obviously they're doing very well because the price is obviously a lot higher than 10 or 15 cents. But then they reutilize that funds to be able to invest into other interesting or like valuable projects, right? So that does look like kind of really fascinating kind of thing of THORChain's success has helped to actually produce funding in a sense to other projects in the space, which is really kind of a nice little kind of cherry on top.
Yeah, you think he's going to hop on or?
No, he hasn't replied to me. That would have been great. All right, we'll do it next time. I'll try to pull him in next Friday. I'll try to schedule with him.
Yeah, if we can schedule that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll do that next time.
Awesome. THOReau too. We can get all of them on.
Yeah, so actually a little update on that. I was just talking to THOReau's, THOReau's personal assistant or whatever the person was. I don't even know who she was, but she was trying to help figure out a time for me to figure out spaces with THOReau and myself or somebody else in the team. So that thing that's still going to happen. It's just taking a little bit longer to get there, and we're going to keep on poking on it until we can get it happen.
All right.
Awesome. Good to hear it's still going to happen, most likely. Awesome. Cool.
All right.
Well, yeah, thanks everyone.
So Candace replied, I mentioned this one last thing we can leave. Candace replies, he's outside, he's in a loud place. You can't join right now, but I'm going to get him to come next week.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Catch you guys later. Mondays, 5 p.m. Actually, no, probably not this Monday because it's a holiday, but catch it. Maybe we'll do another space next week, and then we're always on Fridays. See you.
Bye.
See ya.